Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to this session. So I see people are joining right now. So this session is going to be about the blunders that you need to avoid when it comes to CET 2024, and I'll be taking you through all the mistakes that aspirants have made over the years. I have made over the years across my experience of taking what 9 CETs till now, and we'll try to learn from those blunders, and we'll of course not want to repeat these things and score as high as is possible when it comes to the actual test. Right, so that's basically what we are going for. So for those of you who are joining us and who will be taking the test maybe on the Saturday, Sunday or Monday, I'm sure you would have gone through a lot of those resources that we have already shared with you. So we had done quite a few bits in the lead up to the CET. So one thing that is ongoing is the last minute revision series for the CET. So today we have the last session for that. So that will be conducted by Bimal sir today. So quant is basically what is going to happen. So make sure that you stay tuned for that particular session today in the evening. It will be seen on the YouTube channel. So I'm sure you can just go check it out and join us when the session goes live. Right. So that is the first update that we have. We had also done a short 1 week to CET session. So we had done it last week towards the end of it, and there we had quite a few questions. I shared a few things that you need to understand before the test, during the test, and also after the test, right? So make sure that you have a look at that video as well. In addition to that, there are a couple more things that are there. So one is of course the best of CET series that we have been running on the channel. So we took a few questions from past year CETs, and we sort of had a look at all the important questions or all the interesting questions that were there, which could be solved using some shortcuts, or which had some secret ingredient that was there which was required to solve that particular question. So I hope you have gone through the best of CET series. And finally, we did a couple of live CET solving sessions this year. If you are looking at any last minute additions to your test taking strategy, make sure that you have a look at those live CET solving sessions. So both of them were done by me. And in one of the sessions, what I did was I solved it without the help of pen and paper or any rough work for that matter. So you can have a look at that as well, and just try to see where is it that you can save some time and avoid writing that extra bit on your rough sheet. Right. So that is basically the important things that have been done on this channel. There is one small bit at the end, which is the actual CET. So on each day, we will be having an analysis that will be done by the takers who will be participating in that particular slot. So the schedule for it is ready, and it will be made available to all of you in some time. So make sure that you stay tuned on the channel, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like this video and you share it with as many people as is possible, because I'm sure it will be of a lot of help to all the people who are going to take the CET this year. Right, so that's basically the agenda for the day. We'll be looking at 5 major blunders that people make when it comes to the actual test, and that is basically what we are going for today, right? Omkar, what about CMAT? CMAT, again, we are awaiting more updates on the test. So we'll definitely let you know as and when we get some update from our end as well. Right. At the beginning, I would just like all of you who are watching this to just comment or to just put a comment in the chat section with the slot that you are taking it in and the day on which you are taking the test. So if you are taking it on 9th, let's say from in the afternoon from 2:30 to 5, let's say, you can put that. If you are taking it on the 10th morning, 10th afternoon, 12th morning, 10th, 11th morning, 11th afternoon, just feel free to put it in the chat box so that we know what is the prominent population that we have today. Yeah. All right. Anybody going to take it? Yeah, Saurabh, 9th morning. I think you are one of the few ones who is taking it on 9th morning, because Garima, you as well. So great. Yeah, that's the first day, first show. 9th morning again. Great. Chalo, great. So we have a mix of people who will be taking it on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. So that's great. So we will just try to address all the issues that all of you might come across, right? Not just the people who are taking it in the first slot, but people who are going to take it in the on the second day or on the third day as well, right? So to come to the list of the blunders that I'm going to talk about, the first blunder right? The first blunder that we are talking about in this context is going to the test with a rigid strategy, right? So all of you, I am sure, would have prepared for the test in some way or the other. I am sure all of you would have practiced a few mocks, all of you would have solved a lot of questions, all of you would have maybe interacted with people who have taken the CET earlier, you would have seen the analysis of past CET papers, and all those things would have happened, right? Now the problem with this thing is that you are already going to the test with some judgment in your head, right? So you are going there with the anticipation that logical reasoning is going to be difficult, verbal might have vocabulary which will have words that you are not really aware of, the grammatical errors that are tested could be something that you might not be aware of, there could be mistakes in the test, the DI sets could be very calculation intensive, the visual reasoning questions might be very difficult, and so on, right? So you already have a few biases in your mind. Honestly, even I have a lot of biases when it comes to the actual test, but then the whole idea is for you to sort of keep all those things away when it comes to preparing for the test, right? So the first thing that you have to understand is you do not want to go to the CET with an extremely rigid strategy in your head, right? And there are broadly two reasons to this. One, the first reason is basically because you are going to a test which might not have any sections, right? So you will not have anything that is broken down at a section level. That's a fair possibility. And if that happens, let's say for example, then and you have decided that you are going to solve logical reasoning right at the beginning and you are going to solve verbal at the end, you might not have that luxury if it's a mixed bag kind of a test, right? And that's basically when your entire strategy might collapse and you might start it at a in a negative context, right? So we don't need that to happen. So make sure that you are not going to the test with a rigid mindset. One, because we don't know what the interface would be looking like. We have a fair idea, of course, with the official test and everything, but still there might be some variance that might happen, and we don't really want to get into the test with that kind of a mindset, right? The second problem is going to be in terms of the level of difficulty of the sections that are there, right? So traditionally, if you ask me, again, top of my mind, I would say that logical reasoning has been considerably difficult, quant has been moderate-ish, verbal has been slightly on the easier side, visual reasoning has ranged from moderate to difficult. So that is the take that I will have when it comes to, again, talking about it from past experience. Now this has been across a lot of years. Earlier CET used to conduct it, then IBPS conducted it, now CET is doing it again, right? So the cumulative experience is what speaks for the statement that I made just now, right? So that will basically that is something that we are expecting. But then again, there might be a situation wherein logical reasoning might actually be on the easier side, quant might be actually difficult, visual reasoning or might be on the easier side, verbal ability might be on the difficult side. So all these things might happen, and again, you don't really want to get into a situation wherein you believe that maths is easier than logical reasoning. That's why you're going to spend 1 hour on the quant section or on quant questions, and then you realize that logical reasoning was the one that was easier, right? So we don't really want you to realize in the last 15 minutes that whatever you did in the previous 2 hours 15 minutes was a waste of time and you should have done something else, right? So that should not happen at all. So make sure that you're going to the test with a fluid mindset. That is the first thing. Now someone asked, will the paper be jumbled or section wise? Always go expect with the expectation that the paper is going to be jumbled. Now what, yes, Aditya, what you're writing is what I was about to say, jumbled section wise. So technically there are no sections, but if you look at the entire way in which the paper is designed, if you are looking at maybe the logical reasoning questions, they will form the first 60, 65, 70 questions in your test. Maybe after that, if you're looking at the verbal ability section, then question number 81 to somewhere around 125, 130, 135 will be verbal ability questions, and so on. Now this is what is anticipated, but you can't really be dependent on those kind of things, purely because there might be a situation where in this year they might jumble it completely. So you might have questions in sets of 5 or 10, and the concepts, the consequent sets could be from different sections. So there might be a situation that the first 5 questions could be quantitative comparison, the next 5 questions could be visual reasoning, the next 10 questions could be reading comprehension, and so on. So even that is a possibility. So make sure that you are going to the test with an open mind. Make sure that you are not really having any prejudices in terms of what the test is going to look like, right? So that is basically the issue. Don't worry about whether it will be jumbled or whether it will be section wise. It's jumbled section wise, as someone mentioned, right? So that is basically one thing that you have to understand. Don't go with a rigid mindset, be very fluid. in these kind of scenarios, solving the test in the form of rounds makes a lot of sense. So in the first round, you will go through all the questions that you believe are possible to be solved under 1 minute. So that is the only criterion that I am looking at. And of course, those questions should be from your strongest areas. So someone asked me, what should, if I completely leave mensuration, geometry, logarithms, can I expect? You can always expect questions on at least the first two categories. Logarithm, not so much, but mensuration and geometry, yes, for sure. So make sure that you are, if you are leaving those question types, or if you are historically not very good at those question types, you don't really get stuck on those questions. So what I would generally suggest is go for 2 rounds. The first round should be done in somewhere around 90 to 105 minutes, right? 1 hour 30 minutes to 1 hour 45 minutes mein your first round should be done entirely. Now you have an idea of which section is the easier one, which section is the more difficult one, and then you can spend the last 45 to 60 minutes solving questions from the section which you believe was the easiest of the four, then the next easiest, then the next easiest, and so on. Right, so that's basically going to be the way to go in terms of handling the test. How to quickly check if the paper is jumbled or not? Again, what I generally do is, if you would have seen my live solving sessions, what I generally do is I look at the first question, I look at the 10th question or something. Then I will, if it's a logical reasoning section, I will simply go to the 75th question. If the 75th question is also logical reasoning, more or less, I have a mindset that 1 to 75 is going to be logical reasoning. Then I will go to 76 and check. So it does not take a lot of time. It takes hardly a minute. It hardly takes minute and a half at most to understand whether the test or the paper is jumbled or it is section wise, right? Or section wise jumbled. So that is basically how I do it. I'm sure that you will be able to manage it as well. Okay, so that is the first bit wherein I'm talking about rigid strategy, not having a rigid strategy rather, so as to save yourself some grief when it comes to the actual test. Because see, if everything happens according to plan, brilliant, you are already in a positive mindset when you start the test, but there is an equal chance that things might not work in your favor and you might actually be disappointed in the first 5 minutes of the test, right? So that should not happen. So that is basically the whole agenda for the day. Yeah. 30-minute 40 question strategy is for jumbled from my side. Yes, so that was what I was coming to in the next bit. So the second bit that I'm talking about is the kind of comfort you have in terms of the user interface, the timer, and all these kind of things. So I am assuming that all of you have seen the official mock test that has been put up on the website. So if you have seen that, if you have seen the sim CETs, I'm sure you know what to expect in terms of the interface. So it's going to be pretty similar to what you would have seen in these two areas. So all your mark for review questions, response, how to select a response, how to unattempt a question, right, or how to unselect or deselect the response that you would have provided. All those things I'm sure you would have established some comfort with, right? But I would suggest that if you haven't seen it, make sure that you have sort of had a look at the official mock test that exists, right? So that is one thing that you will have to have a look at, and on the basis of that, you can always have a strategy in your mind that which question number should you be at what point in time, right? So someone mentioned 30-minute 40 questions. So Golu, as you mentioned, 30-minute 40 questions is a perfectly fine strategy, but I have only one issue with that particular strategy, purely that if you are at the 40th question at the end of 30 minutes, 80th question at the end of 60 minutes, similarly 200th question at the end of 150 minutes, life does not work like that in an the scenario that I mentioned in an arithmetic progression, right? Life will have its ups and downs, and there might be a very good chance, or there might be a situation and there is a very good chance that you might be at question number 140 when it comes to 2 hours, right? So 120 minutes have gone and now you are at question 140. That puts pressure on the last 30 minutes, because now you have to attempt 60 questions in 30 minutes, and that is completely contrary to the strategy that you had followed. And that's where you are bound to you're bound to make a lot of mistakes there, purely because what will happen is the questions that you are going to leave are going to be among the last 60 questions, and who knows, the last 60 questions might be the easier ones, the first 140 might be the ones that were sort of difficult, right? So you don't really want to leave that to chance, and that's why what I would suggest is, if you are looking at a 30 and something kind of a strategy, always go for a 30-45 or a 30-50 kind of a strategy. 30 minutes 45 questions or 30 minutes 50 questions, because wahan pe you are showing aggression right at the beginning. So even if you end up looking at 200 questions after 1 hour 45 minutes, chalega, no problem. 45 minutes you can revise whatever you have done, and you can see which questions you could have attempted in a better manner, mark for review karke you can maybe look at some of the questions from the past. But if you get stuck in the opposite scenario, 120th or 130th question after 2 hours, then you are genuinely going to be in big trouble. Okay, so don't worry about it. 30 45 or 30 50 kar sakte ho. And of course I'm talking about leaving some questions as well. I'm not saying that solve 50 questions in 30 minutes. That is definitely going to be very difficult for a lot of us. But 30 minutes 50 questions dekh ke hona chahiye. You should have seen 50 questions at the end of 30 minutes or every 30 minutes ka block. That's basically my expectation. And of course you will have 30 to 40 minutes at the end. In those 30 to 40 minutes you can pick and choose the questions that you would have left earlier, right? So that's basically on the 30-40 strategy that a lot of you might be following. So even if you are doing 30-40, be mindful that instead of 30-25 minutes में ही 40th question पे आ जाओ, right? So be a bit faster than usual because towards the end you should have a lot of time to solve questions which you believe are the easier ones, right? So वो होना चाहिए, नहीं तो you are in big trouble anyway, right? So that's basically about the attempt strategy that I am looking at. The third thing that some people asked, how to mark tukkas, right? So tukka kaise marna hai? Very straightforward. See, I don't really have any logic, honestly. The point is, when will you mark answers randomly? Because you have to understand that, of course, CET as a test does not have any negative marking for incorrect answers. So it behooves you to mark each and every question, irrespective of whether you are confident about that particular question or not, whether you understand a particular question or not, right? Even if it is gibberish, it's fine. Mark something and move it, right? So that's basically the a thing when it comes to unattempted questions. So make sure that you are marking each and every question. Now, which option to mark or when to mark? So there are two broad brackets wherein I will want to mark answers to unattempted questions. Okay? The first bit, or so three categories. The first bit is when I am coming across a question, I have no idea how to solve that particular question. या फिर I firmly believe that it's going to take me definitely more than 3 to 4 minutes to solve one question. इतना अगर पक्का मेरे को पता है कि मेरा ability ही नहीं है वो question solve करने का, so what I will do in that case is, if I believe that I am definitely not going to be able to solve that particular question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark and answer a random option then and there and move forward. Worst case, if I believe that I am solving the test faster than usual, what I will do is I'll mark a random answer, mark it for review, and then move ahead, because my attempt still gets counted. So that is the first bit, right? The second eventuality is when there are 5 or 10 minutes remaining for the test to end. In that situation, again, what I will do is I will look at all those questions that I haven't attempted till then, and then I will try to mark an option randomly, right, for those questions which I believe I'm not going to be able to do in the last 10 minutes as well. Last 10 minutes mein how many questions will you be able to do realistically? Maximum, if you are in the flow state, maximum of 15 questions is what you will be able to do in the last 10 minutes. Okay. But if you look at the kind of questions that you have left which you haven't marked, if there are 30 or 35 or 40 questions which you haven't marked yet, then you have to understand that usme se 20-25 so definitely you have to mark right away. So that has two advantages. One, you will not lose out on some marks just in case you are not able to answer the questions in the end randomly. And the second thing is, you know which are the last 10 or 15 questions that you need to focus on in the last 10 minutes. So you get that kind of clarity when you go into the very last leg of the CET. And do not underestimate this last leg, because these last 10 minutes have the potential to make or break your JB call, to be very honest, right? Because some people might end up getting 15-20 marks in these last 10 minutes. Some people might end up getting 5 marks, and those 10-15 marks are like gold dust when it comes to a test like CET. Okay? So make sure that you are you are basically going to do it maybe 10 minutes before the actual test ends. And then of course the last round is going to be when there is a minute or left, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute left. Uske andar, out of the remaining 15 questions, whatever you have not been able to solve, you can simply mark answers to those questions and get done with the test. Do not keep everything for the end, because I'm sure some of you might have seen the live mock solving attempt that I had done as well. And उसमें हुआ यही कि last में I wanted to mark answers to the unattempted questions, but I was not able to mark answers to some 4 or 5 questions purely because I had kept it for the very end, right? So don't do that. Make sure that you are marking your unattempted questions regularly and not keeping everything for the end. Naito, it's basically going to end up in disaster. Am I going to take the test? Yes, I will be taking the test on the first day. So I think I will be doing the first day analysis in the evening is what we have planned for. So that is what I'll be helping you with. So people who are going to take it on the 10th and 11th, I think you should be benefiting from the analysis. Okay. So that's what we are looking at in terms of analysis, right? Something for verbal passage. So again, going slightly away from the agenda, for verbal passage, Deepam, what you have to do is you have to understand the context. If there are a lot of questions that are factual in nature, you have to attack those questions. You have to definitely answer those questions that are vocabulary based or fill in the blanks based or fact check based. If you see that there are a lot of questions that involve a lot of reasoning, right, inferential questions as we call them, if there are a lot of these questions, then of course you have to be a bit careful, because the accuracy in these kind of questions is traditionally going to be lower than usual. So you don't really want to solve a lot of so you don't really want to invest a lot of time and solve a lot of questions that have very low perceived value in terms of the returns that you are going to get. Okay, so don't really look at that. Yeah, in terms of what you should be doing, last minute grammar advice, mock test. So we have covered all these in the 7 days to CET session that I had conducted last week. So in terms of what should you do, maybe one mock is what I would recommend at this point in time. Maximum of 2 mocks if you are going to take it on Monday. Otherwise, I would not suggest more than 1 mock for sure. You don't really want to be exhausted by the time you go for the test. You have to be in the best frame of mind when you appear for the CET. And in terms of last minute grammar advice, Yash, what you can do is you can go through all the mocks that you have taken. Jahan pe bhi there would have been or wherever there would have been a grammar question, make sure that you know what the rule is and you should be fine. ठीक है, तो उतना करेंगे तो I think you should be good to go, right? Yeah. Okay. CLAT, legal reasoning, not the right channel. Filhal, so you can go to the IMS Get Set Law channel and ask this one. Okay. In terms of the next bit that I'm talking about, the fourth thing that I'm talking about is going to be in terms of the pre and post exam jitters that people will be having. So the first bit is in terms of pre-exam jitters. So people who are going to take it 9th afternoon, 10th morning, 10th afternoon, 11th morning, 11th afternoon, you are going to have a lot of butterflies in your stomach by listening to the advice that people who would have taken it in previous slots, as in people who would have taken it in the previous slots would be giving you some suggestion, right? So वहां से थोड़ा सा butterflies हो सकता है. Make sure that you are not looking at too many pieces of advice, or otherwise you will end up getting confused, right? It's like watching any kind of video, right? Let's say for example you decide to get into trading someday, and now you are looking at all trading videos. One person is going to tell you the market is going to go up, another person is going to tell you the market is going to go down. Both of them are right in their own way, but nobody knows what the future looks like, right? So make sure that you are not looking at a lot of random advice. You can take advice from one source. Because we are doing the analysis, you can have a look at the analysis that we are going to make. Just make sure that you don't take it too seriously. Don't think that this is basically the holy grail and this is basically going to be the test. This is going to be what the test looks like, and plan accordingly. So don't do that. Make sure that you have your own strategies in place. You know how to react to different scenarios, and you go and implement them at the end, right? It's definitely not going to be a different test compared to what usually happens. You are not going to get biology questions, hopefully. Not going to get physics questions, chemistry questions. All those things are not going to happen. What you are going to get is going to be aptitude based questions from quant, verbal, logical reasoning, visualizing. तो वो होने वाला है. Uske beyond, I don't think there are going to be surprises. So don't worry about unnecessary things. Just go in with a relaxed mindset, right? Similarly, post-exam jitters. A lot of people start thinking about the eventuality, the kind of result that they are going to get during the test, right? So test के time पे मेरा सिर्फ एक ही दिमाग में काम चलना चाहिए कि next question right कैसे mark करना है, right? Your only strategy is to mark the next answer correctly. That's the only strategy that works. Otherwise, whatever you do may or may not work, right? The second thing is, once the test is done, uske baad you can start worrying about normalization, whether my slot was the most difficult, my slot was the easiest, whether I will be getting a 99.9 percentile, and all those things happen after the test, right? During the test, don't start thinking about the outcomes. That's the most wrong. There can't be something which is most wrong, but still, in this context, it's the most wrong thing to do when it comes to the actual test, right? So don't do that. Don't really think about what's going to happen after the test. During the test, after the test, we will again be coming up with the analysis of the test, the overall picture across slots. What did we think about the overall flow of the test? which slots were perceived to be the most difficult, most easy, whether all slots were fine or not, normalization ke baad kya hoga, and all those things. We'll also be coming up with a session on what to do after the test, right? So after the test, what is the score that you're expecting? What is the expected percentile? Again, based on first impressions purely. What is going to happen after that? When are the results going to be out? When are we going to, or what will happen in the cap rounds? What exactly are the terminologies that you are expected to know when it comes to the cap rounds? So all those things will happen once the test is done, right? So make sure that you stay tuned, you stay subscribed to the channel, because whenever we have an update, we'll definitely share it on the YouTube channel itself. Okay, that was the fourth thing that I had, and the last thing that I'm talking about is during the test, do not get bothered by minor inconveniences. कि मेरा sheet खत्म हो गया and I raise my hand, but the mentor is who the invigilator, sorry, is not listening to me. So now I get anxious, I get nervous, I feel that the time is ticking and I'll not be able to solve as many questions as I had planned for, right? So those kind of things should not create inconvenience for you. So don't worry about those things. वो चलता है, मतलब 5-10 seconds is not going to change your life in any manner. But if you react negatively to those 5-10 seconds, and if you carry forward that pressure to another 30-40 seconds, definitely you are going to mess up your attempt strategy, and that will have very bad repercussions on your entire performance in the test. Okay, so don't really get bogged down by minor inconveniences. AC बहुत तेज चल रहा है, carry a jacket with yourself, right? If you believe that you might feel cold during the test, if you know that your center is far away from your place, don't try to time it to perfection, right? If you are supposed to reach somewhere by 1:30, make sure that you're reaching there by 1:15. वहाँ पे जाके time pass कर लेना, कोई problem नहीं है, right? But there is no point in reaching there at 1:30 or 1:35 sharp when the reporting time or the last entry is at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, जो भी है, whatever it is, right? So make sure that you have ample buffer. You can go there and do some time pass. You can go and sit somewhere in a cafe or do whatever. You can watch a TV series or just watch a video or do whatever. You can listen to some songs. कुछ भी time pass कर सकते हो. But make sure that you are reaching there before time, right? तो ये सब minor inconveniences को avoid करना है. What if your mouse stops working? So in one of the years, my mouse stopped working randomly. It was working fine. 1 hour left or 1.5 hours left, my mouse stops working. So I have to patiently raise my hand, tell the invigilator that my mouse is not working, so can you do something about it? Now that guy went to some other system which was not used, unplugged that mouse, got it here, plugged it back in, checked if it was working fine or not. It was not working. He took it back, went to another system, got it back, and then the system started working. Right? Now, one thing is you get into panic mode. Arey 2 minutes chala gaya, arey 3 minutes chala gaya, what will you do? Right? My whole idea was, because I did not really have much to do, what I did was I just looked at the screen and I just saw what was there on the screen. I tried to solve that question in my head and I was ready with the answer by the time this person got me another mouse and I was able to mark it and move forward. Right? Similarly, if there was some other question which was present earlier, you would have marked something on your rough sheet and you can sort of try to solve it a bit further till the time your inconvenience gets addressed. Even that is a good strategy to follow. So make sure that you are smart about your attempt. You don't really get bothered because of something that is not going according to your expectation. Okay? So make sure that you always are thinking in a positive manner. You are not really thinking about things in a negative manner. Right? Again, bringing to the second sub point to this, minor inconveniences, make sure that you are in the best of your health when it comes to the test. Make sure that you are not eating random things outside, untested things from outside before the test, because you don't know how your stomach is going to react. You do not really have a lot of food. You do not really go to bed late. So वो सब नहीं करना है. I'm sure there will be a lot of anxiety, but make sure that you are sleeping on time. Maybe if possible, exert yourself a bit before you go to sleep, because then you will be able to sleep peacefully. Right? You can go for a walk after your dinner, or you can maybe go cycle, or you can do some exertion so that you will be able to sleep slightly early, right? So make sure that you do that. Otherwise, you don't really want to be bloated during the test. One year it happened with me. You don't really want to be again sleep deprived when you're taking the test, right? You don't really want to be tired and irritated when you're taking the test. So वो सब definitely नहीं होना चाहिए. All these are things that are in your control. Make sure that you don't really tempt fate randomly. Okay? So that is the last bit that I was talking about. Right? So if you manage these 5 things, you should be fine. Make sure that you don't really overthink about what's going to happen during the test. honestly speaking, your fate has almost been written. I don't mean to say it in a negative context, but most of the job is done, right? You are not going to do something extremely different from what you have been doing over the last 4 or 5 months. So make sure that you back yourself, you trust your preparation that you have been doing over the last 4, 5, 6 months, 1 year, whatever be the amount of time that you have been preparing for this test. And of course, the good results will follow, right? So don't worry about outcomes at this point in time. Analysis का काम हम लोग का है, छोड़ दो हमारे ऊपर. You focus on scoring marks, right? So that is basically the one liner that I generally tell my students, that you leave the analysis bit to us, right? We are there to take the test, analyze it, contemplate on what is going to be the score versus percentile and all those kind of things, because we have nothing to lose, right? But in your case, if you start doing our job, then who will do your job, right? So your job is to score as many marks as you can, select the questions that deserve to be solved in those 2.5 hours, and do justice to all these questions, right? So that's basically what we are going for. In terms of some questions that people have asked, how to manage time as there is no restriction among moving sections like NMAT. Rahul, I believe, see again, as someone already mentioned, 30 minutes 40 questions or 30 minutes 45 questions is a good strategy. So instead of thinking about it at a section level, think about it at a basket level. कि हर 30 minutes में you should be at the 45th question, let's say. After 1 hour, you should be somewhere around the 90th question. After 1.5 hours, you should be somewhere around the 135th or the 140th question. वैसे करके if you keep on progressing, then you will be keeping track of time. So that is one, which is a self-imposed kind of discipline that is there. The other thing is, if it is in a pseudo sectional format, say first 75 questions you figured out are going to be from logical reasoning, what you can do is you can maybe allocate somewhere around 60 minutes to logical reasoning. If it is on the moderate to difficult side, you can allocate somewhere around 40 minutes to quant, you can allocate somewhere around 35 minutes to verbal, and around 15 or 20 minutes to visual reasoning. So वो time split के साथ you can go ahead and solve the test if it is in a pseudo sectional format, right? And if you are more comfortable doing that. Okay. How to choose LR sets, and Tisha, how to manage stress. So how to choose LR sets, again, most of it is going to be instinct, because by now I'm sure you realize that the deeper the instructions, the more difficult it is going to be for you to be able to crack the set, right? So let's say we are talking about 4 conditions, 4 things, name and surname diya hua hai, and there are some very abstract clues, like there are exactly 2 people whose name, whose first letter of the name matches with the city that they are a part of. Now ये सब question आना चालू हो गया, I'm definitely not attempting that set, definitely not attempting it in the first one, ठीक है? But अगर basic set आता है, 7 people are sitting in a straight line, 8 people are sitting in a circle, definitely I'm doing it, ठीक है? So there is a very clear cut thing in my head that these sets are easy, these sets are difficult. So the more conditions, the more parameters, the more difficult the set is going to be. From my experience of taking CETs and from seeing students' performance at the CETs, what I would suggest, what I would want to believe is that the sets that we are going to get are not going to be out of the box. So CAT के अंदर कैसे होता है, you might see a set जिसका format ही नहीं पता मुझे कैसे होता है करके. So CET will almost definitely not have random sets or sets which are alien to you. The format of the sets will be something that you would know. You would just have to decide whether this particular set of say 4 or 5 questions can be solved within 5 minutes or so, right? So LR के लिए 1 minute per question is good enough. So वैसे करके you can choose the LR sets. And how to manage stress, Tisha? So again, if you have taken a lot of sim CETs, if you have taken a lot of mocks, you know what to expect in the actual test as well. Things are not going to be very different on the actual test as well. मतलब unpleasant तो नहीं होंगी, pleasantly different हो सकते हैं, but definitely I don't think there are going to be any negative surprises, so to say. Okay, so that should give you a lot of relief. And once you get your first 5 or 10 questions right ना, वो stress automatically चला जाता है. So the whole idea is for you to figure out which are the first 5 questions that you would want to attempt in that particular test. As soon as you get those 5 questions out of the way, then you will get into that flow state, as we call it, right? So वो flow state में एक बार पहुंच गए, then things become much easier for you, right? So that is basically how you avoid stress. Otherwise, if you are getting stuck at some point in time, you can just take a moment off, just keep your pen and paper aside, have a sip of water, breathe in, take maybe 4 or 5 deep breaths, should not take you more than 30, 40, 45 seconds. उतना time गया तो चलेगा. You might not be able to solve one extra question, but the calmness that you bring to the table will help you attempt the remaining part of the test well. But if you panic in those 30-40 minutes, वो panic will lead to next 5 or 10 minutes of disaster, right? So make sure that you should be mentally prepared to sacrifice those 30-45 seconds, chalega, but make sure that you don't let it affect the remaining part of your test. So that is basically the clocks and calendars के अंदर honestly I don't think there will be a lot of questions. But if you have gone through the concept of odd days and if you know relative speed when it comes to clocks, especially 11/2 degrees per minute वाला concept अगर पता है, then you should be fine. So उससे उससे ज़्यादा difficult two hands intersecting and then switching positions, वो सब questions अगर आना चालू कर दे, then maybe you can let go of those questions if you haven't done anything like that yet. Otherwise, clocks and calendars should not be very difficult. Again, I don't expect you to remember doomsday algorithm. At least try to remember some dates that you know of. So 15th August 1947 was a Friday, 26th Jan 1950 was some other day, and so on, right? So जो भी है, तो वैसे करके you can just try to figure out. Otherwise, there are a lot of intricacies in clocks and calendars, but not really the forum where I teach you clocks and calendars, right? So that was one thing. In terms of difficulty, and as CAT was a horror by IML after 2018, I don't think, honestly, I don't think that CET is going to be as horrendous as CAT 2018 and CAT 2023. So if I were to bet today, I would mostly be betting on a moderate to easy kind of a paper. Is what I would be betting on. I would definitely not be betting on a test जहाँ पे तुम्हारा cutoff goes to 120, like CET 2018, I believe, right, or 17, I don't remember. CET 2017 rather, yeah. So CET 2017 was possibly the toughest CET in recent years. वो level पे तो I don't see things going to, but definitely I'm looking at a moderate-ish paper. So if you have solved your sim CETs, I think more or less that is what you can expect at the actual CET as well. Okay, Preeti already covered it. It will be jumbled section wise mostly, although be mentally prepared for surprises. So when I say jumbled section wise, it basically means that the first 70 questions could be logical reasoning, the next 40 questions could be verbal, and so on. But they will not have tabs at the top. Okay? Yeah. What to choose between quant based LR or arrangement? Again, Mohit, it depends on your thing. I would mostly go for arrangement instead of quant based LR. Quant based LR के अंदर you might be expected to do a lot of things and then figure out which is the right one that will match, be it averages, be it products, or be it whichever way. Arrangement के अंदर मेरे को पता है कि वही अगर मैं ये 4x4 का जो भी है मतलब 8 का ये बनाता हूँ, layout बनाता हूँ, I will be able to fill it properly. So my preference will be towards arrangement, although I love maths, but I will still go for pure arrangement based questions क्योंकि वहाँ पे मेरा comfort level शायद ज़्यादा है. But it's completely up to you as to what you. Can I skip coordinate geometry? Sumit, yes. If you haven't done anything yet, don't really worry about coordinate geometry now. You should be fine even if you don't do coordinate geometry at this point in time. So don't worry about it. Okay? Chalo. Should anyone take abstract reasoning first? Yes, I would definitely not do that. But you can try it. Matlab, see, I either go for my strongest section at the beginning or my weakest section at the beginning, right? So that's basically what I get into the test. And that is the outlook with which I get into the test. So abstract reasoning does not really come in either of those brackets. It's not the one that I'm the most fond of. It is probably the one that I'm the least fond of. But again, I would not really want to do it at either ends. I would want to keep it somewhere in the middle. But definitely, if you have done it in the past and it has worked for you, maybe you can go for it as well. Okay, chalo. Which slot I'm taking it in? 9th afternoon slot. Okay, chalo. All right. So I think I've answered most of the questions. 132 in the actual IMS mock. What can you expect in the actual test? So see, typically it's going to be a plus, again, to give you a very broad range, plus 20 to minus 20. But that's again, if I were to give a trading analogy, it's like basically selling those iron condors and short triangles, right? बहुत में दूर जाके I'm trying to squeeze from both sides. So plus 20 minus 20 is what I would look at, but maybe I'm looking at a plus 10 minus 10 kind of a change. So 122 to 142 is what we can expect, Akash, right? But again, depends on a lot of parameters. Test easy hai, difficult hai, and all those things. So don't worry about absolute scores. Again, as I mentioned, keep it very simple. Your only job is to solve the next question correctly. That's the only job. उसके बाद broader trend में मेरे को कितना score आएगा? Honestly, even I am not aware of the kind of score that I am going to get. As soon as I get, so I'll share one small thing that I generally do during the test. during the test I don't think about the score that I am going to get, right? I only keep a track of the attempts that I would have made. And एक बार test खत्म हो जाता है and my timer runs out, उसके बाद I put it on a rough sheet and try to figure out, okay, I did not solve maybe 3 or 4 sets in logical reasoning, so my genuine attempts were 55. I can expect 55 में 85-90% accuracy, so I'm expecting some 47-48 marks out of 55. बाकी 20 तुक्कों के अंदर 5 और मिल जाएंगे. I'm expecting around 52 marks in logical reasoning. Now typically 52 marks in logical reasoning will translate into 2.5 times, right? So 52, 52, 26. I think 130 कुछ score बनेगा. So if I'm scoring somewhere around 52 marks in logical reasoning, my expectation will be that my overall score will be around 130, which means that it's a moderate to difficult kind of a test. अगर वो number 140 पे आता है, then I will term it as a moderate test. अगर वो number 150 के ऊपर जाता है, then I will term it as an easy test. तो ये मेरा मतलब that is my internal mental calculation, which might reflect in your analysis and cutoffs as well. But that is basically my first take, whatever be the nature of the CET. ठीक है, तो वो that is my trade secret. All right, okay. Any specific tukka strategy for alien questions? Mohit, I don't know. I generally go for either option B or C depending on my mood that day. If I am seeing a lot of C's, then I will go for all option B's as random tukkas. And if I am seeing a lot of B's, then I will go for C's. I have never gone for A, D or E. If top of my mind, I don't remember going for A, D or E. Either go for B or C. One of those middle options is what I go for. But see, it's jumbled at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter. But whichever option you have not been seeing more frequently, go for that option. बाकी तो कुछ भी नहीं है, मतलब it's 1 out of 5 at the end of the day. So don't worry about it. Whatever you have to get, you will get. ठीक है? Okay. So CAT we will discuss in another session. So we'll be coming up with an AMA soon for CAT as well. So stay tuned for that. Quant tricks, Akash, you can have a look at the live mock solving videos, the best of CET and the last minute revision. तो वहाँ पे काफी सारे tricks cover किए हुए हैं. So that is something that should help you with some quant tricks. But again, not the right forum जहाँ पे I start explaining quant tricks, because if I start doing that, then we might as well extend this session till 10 p.m. ठीक है? So that is definitely not what I'm going to do now. ठीक है? Will your score affect our normalization? No, it will not, honestly. So normalization is done at a lot of different levels. Now again, to address the elephant in the room, mentors taking the test is not going to affect your scores positively or negatively. Okay? If a lot of mentors decide to go and score a 0, it's not going to affect your score in a positive sense. Similarly, if everyone attempts to the best of their ability, it's not going to affect in a negative sense. That's purely because if you look at the normalization that is done, it is not done at just one level, right? They will not say that okay, let's pick the topper of the slot and then try to normalize the slot. वैसा नहीं होता. Statistically, that doesn't make any sense. So they will look at 1, they will look at 10, they will look at 50, they will look at 100. All percentile brackets पे they will see what the marking is, and on the basis of that entire chain of events, that's basically how you will decide whether a slot is easy, moderate or difficult compared to the other slot. So that's basically how it works. Equipercentile normalization का more or less फंडा वैसे ही होता है. That across percentiles they will try to judge whether a slot is easy or difficult, right? So one person ka performance does not affect your performance at all. Plus the other thing is the uska next outcome is basically applying to institutes. So we have a process, an entire cap round process or cap process that we have, a centralized application process. तो वहाँ पे whoever doesn't apply doesn't get considered. We don't apply, we don't get considered. As simple as that, right? So if the top 40 people who apply are going to go to JBIMS, then we are definitely not going to be among the top 40 people, because we will not be applying, right? So वो सबको थोड़ा बाजू में रख दो, honestly speaking, because there is a lot of noise made around this. But it doesn't matter, right? Last 2 years I have not been taking CET, and I don't think people have benefited big time because I have not taken CET, right? And if it does, then I'm very happy about it. But again, honestly, it doesn't matter at the end of it. Okay? So don't worry about it. Forget about all those things. They are very good to rile people up and create some noise. But beyond that, uska kuch, honestly, uska kuch outcome nahi hai. So all those things don't matter. Okay? I would definitely not recommend finding and solving questions section wise. If it is completely jumbled, look at it in buckets of 5 questions. So first 5 questions maybe एक area से होंगे. Solve those, then goes to the next 5 and so on. ऐसे करते रहना. If you are not comfortable with a particular bucket, go to +5, right? So 6 से 10 questions. अगर if you are not comfortable, go to 11 to 15. तो अगर let's say sixth question is sequential output 6 to 10, तो and if you're not comfortable, skip 6 7 8 9 10, go to the 11th question directly. तो वैसे करके you can fix it. I would definitely not recommend going through all the questions, then picking and choosing 50 questions, then solving those 50 questions, then again going through the remaining 150 questions. वो सब करते बैठोगे तो पेपर खत्म हो जाएगा, right? So don't do all these kind of things. I would suggest you don't do all these kind of things. If it is a 1 to 100 entirely jumbled kind of a test, look at it in buckets of 5. If it is a jumbled section wise test, which most probably it will be, then you can look at first question, 70th, 75th question, mostly LR khatam ho jayega agar LR first hai to. If it is verbal, then around the 45th or 50th question, verbal will get over and some other section will start and so on. So maybe you can have a look at those milestone questions and then can plan accordingly. Okay. What will be the cutoff of this year? Akshdeep, I really wish I would have I would have been able to give you an answer to that question. But sadly, I can't predict the future. And if I could, I would definitely not want to spend my power on figuring out what CET cutoff is going to be like, right? I would definitely keep it for better things in life, like predicting numbers on lottery tickets and whatnot, right? So वो सब चीजों के लिए मैं अपना सुपर पावर यूज करता, इसके लिए तो डेफिनेटली नहीं यूज करूंगा. एंड ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग आई डोंट नो, राइट? बट इफ यू आर scoring somewhere around 140 marks general candidate, I think you have a decent shot at 140 150 marks, I think you have a decent shot at JBIMS. उस वो वाले इस पे मैं छोड़ देता हूँ, ठीक है? ओके, ठीक है, चलो, ग्रेट. ऑलराइट, सो 110 in test funda marks, you are from OBC category, what college to target? Again, Godfather, you will get ample opportunities to target the colleges once you're done with the test, purely because your cap rounds will start after your test. But in this context, 110, if you're getting at a general level first round of percentile, agar मेरे को देखना है, then I would probably put your percentile somewhere around the 98s, at least is what I'm looking at in the actual test. ठीक है? So 98 to 99 is where I sincerely believe you might end up with. If you get more than that, great. If you get less than that, don't worry about it. Okay? So don't worry about those things. Scores and all, we will come up with it later. What score might correspond to what percentile? Again, that is guesswork, honestly speaking. But we'll try to be as accurate as is possible with our guesses as well. Okay? Mohit, I've already answered this, addressed this in detail somewhere in the middle of the session. So please go back and have a look at this. If you have anything in addition to what I have said, then please put it in the comment section. I will try to address that query. Okay? How many people take IMS CET mocks? Fuzel, again, it depends, but I believe somewhere around 7,000 to 10,000, I believe, at the very top. But if you look at the kind of takers, it tapers down as we progress. And because Sim CETs we haven't really conducted in a window format this year, people have been taking it since a long time. So again, we haven't been keeping track of how many people have taken each Sim CET. Okay? So Fuzel, again, the point is the benchmarking tables that we have, those are pretty accurate. If you are getting a 99.5 percentile consistently, I think that would correspond to a 99.8ish or a 9ish percentile at the actual test as well. Okay? Chalo, what should be the target score to get Pumba? Abhijit, there are no target scores, there are target percentiles, and those things happen after the test. But again, to be honest, I think you should target somewhere around 135ish marks. If the trends continue, 135 to 140 is what I believe you would need to target if you are to secure Pumba. Okay? Chalo, all right. So thank you everyone for coming to this session. I hope it was useful to you. We will definitely meet you on the day of the analysis, and today we have a session in the evening on the last minute, the last part of the last minute revision series that we have started, or we basically went through this week. Deepesh, again, I have answered this in detail in terms of how to deal with stress during the exam. Have a look at that segment. I'll try to put time chapters in this video so that you will be able to sort of go to the relevant section and have a look at the answer. Okay? But beyond that, I have mostly shared whatever I have wanted to share. So stay tuned for the analysis that we are going to have, the last minute revision series. Go through the SimCAT live solving sessions, best of CET sessions, and the 1 week to CET session. Those things should help you progress your preparation in a good manner. ठीक है. So that's basically what I had from my side. Stay subscribed to the channel, do like this video, share it with your friends if you think it's going to be useful to them, and we'll try to conduct more such sessions for people who are going to take the CET, for things that are going to happen after CET, and also for people who are targeting CAT and other entrance tests. Okay. So on that note, we'll close the session. Thank you everyone again, and wish you all the best for the test, and I hope all of you do well, and we share the analysis soon, right? Chalo, great. So thank you everyone, and yeah, bye everyone.